Welcome back to Deep Dialogues, the podcast where we explore the hidden worlds most people never get to see. Today's episode takes us inside one of the most intense spaces in human psychology, the interrogation room. What happens behind that closed door? How do investigators separate the truth from lies? Is interrogation about fear, pressure, and confession, or is it really about understanding people? To help us unpack this, I am joined by retired investigator Inspector Kavya Khetan, who spent over 25 years conducting interviews and interrogation in criminal cases. Inspector Kavya, welcome.
Thank you, Arnav. Glad to be here.
Let's begin with room itself. People imagine a dark room, one table, one hanging bulb. How accurate is that?
That image is more cinema than reality. In truth, an interrogation room is usually clean and distraction-free. Neutral walls, a table, a few chairs, proper lighting, sometimes a recording. The goal is not drama, it is focus.
Why keep it plain?
Because distractions affect concentration. Both the investigator and the subject need a controlled environment. Every movement, hesitation, pause, or contradiction matters.
So the room itself is part of the process.
Absolutely. Environment shapes the behavior. A calm, predictable room can reduce chaos and emotional escalation.
People often use interview and interrogation interchangeably. Are they different?
Very different. An interview is information gathering. We speak with witnesses, victims, or even suspects in a neutral way. An interrogation usually begins when investigators believe the person may be withholding truth or involved in wrongdoing. Then the conversation becomes more strategic.
So interview is open exploration, interrogation is targeted clarification.
Yes, exactly.
Does interrogation always mean someone is guilty?
No, suspicion is not good. Sometimes an innocent person is interrogated because facts are incomplete.
What happens in the first 5 minutes when someone enters the room?
Observation, how they walk in, eye contact, breathing, body posture, tone of greeting, those such comments can reveal stress levels.
Can body language prove deception?
No, that's a myth. Nervousness can mean fear, trauma, confusion, or simply discomfort. Body language is only one, never the truth.
Then what matters most?
Consistency. A truthful person may be nervous, but their story often remains stable. A deceptive person may appear calm, their details shift
This surprises many people, but skilled investigators often start by being polite. Why?
because people talk when they feel heard. Respect lower resistance. If you begin aggressively, people shut down or begin defensive.
So interrogation is less about intimidation and more about psychology.
Exactly. Human beings respond to dignity. Even guilty people want to explain themselves.
How do you build rapport?
Simple things offer water, use their name, ask neutral questions first, like background, family routine. Let them speak naturally before discussing the incident.
I have heard silence can be more powerful than questions. Is it true?
Very true. Many people rush to silence. If you ask a difficult question, remain quiet. The person often keeps taking
Why does silence work?
because silence creates a psychological space. People feel tension and try to resolve it.
Can you give an example?
Suppose I ask, where were you at the warehouse at that time? If I stay silent after that, they may continue. Well, I knew I was nearby, not exactly inside. That extra sentence may be crucial.
Let's talk about meaningful questions. What separates a weak question from a strong one?
Weak questions are vague or leading. Strong questions are specific, neutral, and open enough to reveal the identity.
Example.
The weak one is who stole the money, didn't you? But the strong one may ask, walk me through your movements between 8 and 10 p.m.
Why is that better?
because it invites narrative. Truth is easier to narrate than fabricate.
How do contradiction emerge?
What happened next? For the time and reputation, you ask for the story again later, from a different angle.
Different angle?
Yes, first ask chronologically, later ask backward, or ask about sensory details, what they heard, what noticed, etc.
Why backward?
Fabricated stories are rehearsed forward. Reverse order may require genuine memory.
That's fascinating. At what point does an interrogation becomes emotional?
Often when the person realizes evidence is stronger than expected, or when guilt surfaces.
What emotion do you see most?
Fear, anger, shame, or relief.
Relief?
Yes, carrying a lie is exhausting. Sometimes confession brings emotional release.
So confession is not always forced pressure. It can be surrender or truth.
Yes, precisely.
This is important. Can innocent people confess?
Unfortunately, yes.
Why would someone confess to something they didn't do?
Stress, fatigue, fear, or desire to escape the pressure.
That sounds dangerous.
It is why ethical safeguards, legal rights, recordings, and evidence verifications are essential.
So confession alone should never be the only basis.
Correct. Good investigations rely on corroborations.
Where is the line between skilled questioning and coercion?
The line is consent, legality, dignity, and consequence. Threats, violation, deprivation, deception that overrides free will, those process ethical and legal lives.
Can intimidation produce unreliable answers?
Very often, fear can be fear can create compliance, not truth.
Then ethical methods are not just moral, they are effective.
Exactly.
When you sit across someone accused of serious crime, how do you see them?
As a human being first, actions may be terrible, but understandings, motive matters.
What kind of motives appear repeatedly?
Greed, revenge, desperation, addiction, jealousy, fear, impulse.
Do most criminals seem monstrous?
No, many look ordinary. That's what unsettles people. Harm often comes from ordinary people making destructive choices.
Describe the moment someone decides to tell the truth.
Often there is a pause, shoulders drop, tone softens, defensive spirit. Then comes a sentence like, okay, I'll tell you what happened.
What causes that shift?
Sometimes evidence, sometimes exhaustion, sometimes consequence.
And how do you respond?
Stay calm, don't celebrate, let them speak
Can ordinary people learn anything from interrogation psychologically?
a lot.
Like what?
Listen more than you ask. Ask clear questions. Notice inconsistencies gently. Silence can be useful. Respect gets better answer than aggression.
That applies to parenting, leadership, in negotiation, even relationships.
Exactly.
In your career, what was the most powerful question you ever asked?
Not did you do it, it was how did things get to this point?
Why that one?
Because it invites reflection, not defense. It asks for story, motive, regret, or humanity.
And what did people often reveal?
That one bad act usually began with many smaller choices ignored.
If every interrogation room could speak, what would it say?
It would say that truth is complicated. Lies are loud, but truth often arrives quietly.
That's powerful. Today, we learned the interrogation room is not a place of accusation. It is a place where psychology, memory, fear, accountability, and truth collide. It reminds us that asking the right question matters, listening matters, ethics matters. Inspector Kavya, thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Arnav. It was a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, sometimes the most important room is not an interrogation room, but the quiet spaces where we question ourselves honestly. Until next time, this is Deep Dialogues. Stay curious.